He's a failed leader. We gave him a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and he failed.
That should be enough right there. If Republicans actually still had their brains, that would be enough.
Yeah.
This is the U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
Suggests that they're going to stick with him, that it's more of a cult than a political party at this point, and they're going to stick with their leader.
Former Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton giving her take on Republicans following Donald Trump's indictment, making those comments during an interview with the Pod Save America podcast, where no doubt she felt pretty comfortable in front of the crowd. Joining us now, former New Jersey governor and 2024 presidential candidate Chris Christie. It's great to have you. When I first heard that yesterday, I just couldn't believe it. Like, they learned nothing.
Hey, it's Chris Christie again.
Arguably the thing that made most Trump voters say, you know what, I am going to stick with him, and yet they're still at it.
Well, look, she is the most tone-deaf person I've ever seen get a major party nomination for president of the United States. She was the most unpopular presidential candidate on election.
I'm digging the yellow tie.
I was about to say the exact opposite.
Yeah, you don't like it?
It's horrible.
She was a nominee in 2016. And candidly, Dana, she is so yesterday's news that all of us should just look at it and say, thank God we all worked as hard as we did to make sure she wasn't president of the United States in 2016.
I do agree.
And she...
No. She is yesterday's news. As in, this shouldn't even be brought up. She was on she was on Pod Save America, which is like I think it's a fine podcast, but I'm watching it because I know I'm what framework I'm getting. I'm looking at like what the libs think,
Yeah.
Because they're a really good
barometer for the libs.
Well, they worked inside the Democratic Party for the Obama admin and stuff.
Okay.
So they're actual people who worked inside the government and are like Democratic Party stands.
Okay.
He's out of it. And I don't think even Democrats listen to her.
How would you characterize the support, though, of President Trump on this indictment by Republicans?
Look, I don't think the support's on the indictment. I think there's two ways to look at this at the same time. There's no doubt that all of us need to be concerned about how these choices get made. I did this for 7 years. I made the decisions about how people were going to be investigated, who got indicted and who didn't. And when you see that she did not get indicted in 2016, and now Donald Trump has in 2023, of course Republicans are going to be angry about that. We should have a conversation about that and how we reform DOJ to make it a place where they go ahead with no fear or favor, no prejudice, no partisanship. But I don't think that most Republicans support the conduct that's detailed in that indictment. It's reckless, it's harmful to American national security, and it doesn't show the kind of judgment that you need to be an effective president during difficult times.
You may be right about that. I'm looking at these polling numbers, and he's crushing it. Here's one from June 5th through the 9th. What is this, Suffolk University? Trump's at 48%. There's others who have him well over 50%.
What? You may be right about that. He's crushing in the poll numbers. Bro, did you listen to what Chris Christie just said?
I don't think he did. I genuinely do not think he did.
Nobody brings this up, but Mike Pence also had a fucking classified document scandal too. That was like equally as bad as like Hillary.
But he gave him back, right?
Yeah, he immediately gave him back and participated, right?
Yeah, that's the big difference.
So the thing with Hillary was a big deal because of the situation. It wasn't that she took something home and misplaced it and gave it back. That would be a standard practice thing that happens all the time, where it's like, hey, I mean, we do it with office work all the time, like legal work. Sometimes you're not supposed to take out of the office, disease stuff, so all that kind of stuff. It was her being a boomer and wanting to just use the same phone and not be a drug dealer with a burner phone and a government phone, right? She wanted to just have it.
And I look at these numbers and I wonder, do Republican primary voters want a critic?
I think
Donald Trump.
I think they want a campaign. And Bill, those numbers all exist at a time when there has been no campaign yet. This campaign will start in earnest in August. When the debates start, sponsored by the RNC, and folks in this country and in our party really engage. Those numbers are obviously going to be there. He is, in essence, the incumbent in this race. And when you're running against an incumbent, that's where the incumbent's going to start. But in the end, we're going to make a case that we have done nothing but lose since Donald Trump has been the leader of this party. Nothing but lose.
It's a good play.
House, 2020.
He's 100% right, too.
He is.
I think Chris Christie is good at doing this. I think he's a good speaking guy. I think he's kind of incompetent with his governing. He's a good advisory type guy. Imagine this, right? If Chris Christie can get on that debate stage with Ron DeSantis and make him have to debate like this, So where he can't say thing like Zuckbucks and like these dumb. This is a man talking in plain English. He's spelling it right out. And if we can get this type of attitude on the debate stage with Ron DeSantis, then I think that's when the GOP will start showing their shift away from Trump.
Yes. You know what's funny, though? I reckon the biggest weakness that DeSantis and Trump would have on the debate stage is, what are you talking about? What does that mean? Just pulling them up.
Well, Trump won't debate, for starters.
What?
Trump won't debate, for starters. Trump has said this. He won't debate, and he'll be too busy to debate. And it'll be bad for his legal case, too. So Trump already said that he's not going to debate people. So both Trump and Biden are employing this strategy. It's DeSantis who is going to have to debate. I don't think Christie wants to win. I don't believe last time he wanted to be president, but he was in Trump's inner circle the whole time. He was influencing every policy in that Trump admin. So when he's talking here and saying all we've done is lose, you were part of that. You were one of the main advisors throughout Trump's entire thing. You stood by him till the end. A lot of times he was the voice of reason for Donald Trump. And he was the guy who could get Trump to listen to certain things. I think this is one of their working boys, right, for the GOP. I think the reason why they're putting him in here is because that's what they want to do, is when they get into August and they get on the debate stage, they're going to pivot Ron DeSantis away from this whole like nonsense thing. They're going to be able to just really try and frame Trump as like a nonsense man.
And that's the way that they need to do it. Because like he proved that you can't fight him at his own game.
Well, Trump proved that sensationalism gets you coverage. They tried to edge him out last time too.
Yeah.
But that's what I think is going on. I don't think this guy has an intention to win. And that's why I think he's not using populism at all. I think that's why he's being realistic about things and actually talking in plain English how political candidates should when they're running for president. But because of, democracy and populism, they don't. If everyone talked like this, nobody would get into politics or care.
We lost the White House and the Senate. 2022, we lost 2 more governorships, another Senate seat, and we barely took the House of Representatives against Joe Biden, who is the most incompetent president I've seen since Jimmy Carter. That is a failure.
That's a great insult.
Trump. He picked most of those candidates who lost, and he has led us down a path of losing. And what are the ramifications for that, Bill? Dana, record inflation, botched withdrawal from Afghanistan, sending the country into an educational tailspin because we're excluding parents from their children's education.
The border.
Good.
And the border is...
Oh, that was a good slide in as well. I would. Everyone hates Biden's border policy. Because,
the shipping people to other states?
The whole institution of it, right? There's people who there's the camps still exist.
Yes. After so much criticism of Trump for them too.
The border is largely a theater type play where you're not going to have a change that much in policy between them. And with the border, no matter what happens, it's dissatisfactory. Either way, no matter what decision and what thing that he pulls on the border, it's going to piss everyone off regardless, because it's not going to be an extreme enough measure. So I wanted to just go back when he's listing off why Biden is bad.
Record inflation, botched with shit by Donald Trump. He picked most of those candidates who lost, and he has led us down a path of losing. And what are the ramifications for that, Bill? Dana, record inflation. We have done nothing but lose since Donald Trump has been the leader of this party. Nothing but lose. 2018, we lost the House. 2020, we lost the White House and the Senate. 2022, we lost 2 more governorships, another Senate seat, and we barely took the House of Representatives against Joe Biden, who is the most incompetent president I've seen since Jimmy Carter. That is a failure of leadership by Donald Trump. He picked most of those candidates who lost, and he has let us down.
Again, that's a great insult for Joe Biden, is the most incompetent since Jimmy Carter. That is a great way to use history. Funny story, my dad voted for Jimmy Carter. And his dad told him he was a communist.
Path of losing. And what are the ramifications for that, Bill? Dana, record inflation, botched withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Okay, so the record inflation. I mean, if he wants to hit Trump back here too, he can also say it was, and it's just continuing Trump's printing. If they want to phrase inflation as being at the fault of there. The second thing he lists, withdrawal from Afghanistan, 100%. Nobody should let that go for Joe Biden. Ever. And it's not like we'll have to hold it to him for very long. He's going to die soon. But that should be continually brought up.
sending the country into an educational tailspin because we're excluding parents from their children.
Now, this right here, this didn't need to be here, but he didn't want to talk about the border. He wanted to be like, oh yeah, also because of this, because of Trump, that's why your kids are gay now. It's letting Biden make your kids gay because Trump is making us lose. So if you don't want your kids to be gay, so it's
a very interesting way to go about it.
It's about people don't really aren't fear-mongered about immigration this time around. They're scared of gay right now. Yeah. So I would say it would be a better strategy to say that. And the way he's saying it, he is the ultimate GOP fence sitter guy with his language, where he's saying it in a way where it's the ultimate dog whistler. You know, he's like they're excluding parents from their children's education. No, they're not. The parents, if they really want to, can like get all the stuff that they want.
The education,
the border,
and the border is ridiculous. And Trump,
by the way, policies.
Listen, hear that? He said, "But Trump," right there. But the reporter wouldn't let him go.
Sending the country into an educational tailspin because we're excluding parents from their children's education.
The border,
and the border is ridiculous. And Trump, by the way,
policies did much better on everything you just mentioned.
But wait a second, Bill. His policies did not do better at the border, okay? At the border, we had a diminution in what we're seeing now. But remember what he promised in 2016. He was going to build a wall across the entire border in his first 4 years, and Mexico was going to pay for it. Well, we got a wall that's about a quarter of the way done, and Mexico hasn't given us 1 peso yet. So, you know, Donald Trump in 2016 was a guy who had no record, so he couldn't be examined in a very specific way. He now said he was going to do that with immigration. And by the way, had Congress for the first 2 years fully controlled by the Republicans, not one change in the immigration laws. So of course Joe Biden can come in and make things.
So on a debate stage, he's going to say Biden stopped it. And you can go down to the border today and see piles of steel that are just laying there in the Arizona desert.
Yeah, Bill, those piles of steel.
Biden stopped it. What? He didn't complete the wall. What does Biden have to do with that? He was supposed to do it in his term.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Trump.
Biden passed his fucking infrastructure platform he ran on. It's in full swing right now.
Deal have been sitting there since Donald Trump was president.
He did it without controlling the way the Republicans did back then.
Yeah, he didn't get it done. He couldn't convince the Republican Congress to fund the wall. He couldn't finish it. And he didn't change one immigration law. Now, look, Joe Biden is an awful president. We all agree on that. He's terrible and he has made things worse. But why is Joe Biden sitting in the White House? He's sitting in the White House because he beat Donald Trump in 2020.
True.
Another in the string of losing that Donald Trump has led us to. He's a 3-time loser, and we don't want to have a...
Just associating Trump and calling him a loser.
It's going to fucking turn him fucking
And
mental.
the thing is just like, this was his right hand. Like,
yeah.
This was the secret, like the Lord of the Rings guy who whispers in the ear. Who's that guy? That's this guy.
Yeah.
Also, you can tell he is wearing a people suit. He's another thing inside a person suit. You know, so I always talk about how these people are creatures and not human. You know,
4-time loser.
One of the things that I would say, one thing that President Trump did that Biden doesn't is support the Border Patrol. Like the men and women who are on the ground there doing all of that. Today, the Republicans are wondering about the possibility of impeaching Secretary Mayorkas for a lack of work on the border. In addition to that, other candidates, including Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, is suggesting that he wants to take on the DOJ, reform the DOJ and the FBI, and what they consider the weaponization of the Justice Department against the people. You worked at the Justice Department. Do you think it needs a wholesale clear out at DOJ or the FBI?
I think what we need is a strong attorney general who knows how to direct the leadership at DOJ. And we haven't had one. Look, and Donald Trump didn't give us one. He gave us Jeff Sessions, who the first thing he did was recuse himself from the Russia investigation. And Jeff Sessions and his deputy attorney general appointed Bob Mueller and sent us down that road. At the time, I was saying this was wrong. The attorney general should have recused.
Great callback. The Mueller report is a great callback. And it's something that they don't do enough. Because if they ran like they used to, the Mueller report would be this cycles like Benghazi, right? Where they would constantly bring up Benghazi. I was kind of checked out. I mean, I was really sick at this time, but like I just know that the Mueller report was a huge nothing burger.
It was a disaster.
Yeah, and it was played out for so long.
Let me tell you, Eric Holder was a bad attorney general. Jeff Sessions was a bad attorney general, and Merrick Garland's a bad attorney general. You know what we could do? We should get a great attorney general. And I did this job as U.S. attorney in New Jersey for 7 years, and I know what it will take to get a good attorney general there who will lead and lead without fear or favor.
2 more things here. You haven't been to Iowa.
Not yet. Only been in the race a week, though, Bill.
And I get it, but if you don't do well in Iowa and you don't do well in New Hampshire, the argument that you're going to make against Trump,
the guy's name is Bill.
Well, I guess you should just quit today, then.
Well,
Bill. I mean,
I told you.
Dude,
the bottom line is
attitude right here, the passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, it's pretty
He's
pathetic.
literally like, "How about you shut the fuck up, Bill?"
Bill.
And I get it. Two more.
I know what it will take to get a good attorney general there who will lead.
This is the best one so far. I've actually rewound several times now just to like have him deliver his meatball point
without fear or favor.
Two more
I
things.
also
here.
like that without fear or favor.
Mm.
With like
Yeah,
talking about
it's a
justice
good
and
line.
due process. That's a really good one.
Only been in the race a week, though, Bill.
And I get it, but if you don't do well in Iowa and you don't do well in New Hampshire, the argument that you're going to make against Trump is just going to fall flat.
Well, I guess I should just quit today, then,
Well,
Bill. I mean, look, the bottom line is at this time in the race in 2015, Donald Trump was at 4%. That's where he was.
He does it
In
so
June of 2015,
swiftly.
He was at 4%.
He's really
At
good.
this time
He's a
in
good player.
2007, Barack Obama was down by 37 points to Hillary Clinton. And guess what? Those last two names are the last two presidents of the United States before Joe Biden. So don't count me quite out yet, Bill.
I was just suggesting you need an early victory in order to stay in the race and make
Everybody does, Bill.
Last point.
How about Ron DeSantis? You think he needs an early victory?
But when we get a chance to interview him, we'll ask him the same question.
Okay.
On the issues, where do you disagree? I looked at the abortion case. I mean, you favor allow the states to determine this.
Yes, sir.
I think Donald Trump's on the same page with you on that. You want to be tough on China. He was tough on China.
He wasn't near. Let's stop.
Was he change rules on Social Security so that the wealthy would not receive Social Security checks? So maybe there's a distinction there. But if you're on stage with him on August 23rd, right, you have an opportunity in front of millions of American people to say, "Here is how I will be different."
He's a failed leader. We gave him a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and he failed.
That should be enough right there. If Republicans actually still had their brains, that would be enough.
Yeah.
He failed us, Bill. And he failed us by losing the House, by losing the Senate, and by turning over the White House to Joe Biden and the most liberal administration and an effective administration since Jimmy Carter.
Did he say ineffective? Liberal and ineffective?
I swear he said effective.
I think he did say effective because that's the thing is they are really effective. Hang on. Let's see what the thing is that his vowels get lost in the giblets.
Failed us by losing the House, by losing the Senate, and by turning over the White House to Joe Biden and the most liberal administration and an effective administration since Jimmy Carter. Is that the type of leadership we want, or do we want someone who is governed in a blue state, showing you can win independent voters, got 61% of the vote for re-election in a state like New Jersey as a Republican, and worked with a Democratic legislature to get pension reform, to fire the Camden City Police
This has always been his thing. He had my favorite campaign announcement of the last one. And what he did is he came on when the Daily Show got turned over to Trevor Noah. He was the first guy to be interviewed by Trevor Noah.
Really?
That was his campaign debut. And it was a really smart one because all he talked about was how he was the deal maker. He did the bipartisanship. You know, he's not stupid.
Been leading to a 75% reduction in the murder rate and gave more educational choice than in any blue state in the country, more charter schools and choice in the city of Newark, and did that with a Democratic legislature. Is that what we need in Washington, or do we need Donald Trump whining, moaning, and making everything about him? He doesn't care about the American people, Bill. He's putting himself first. And if you watch that speech yesterday at Bedminster, where's he talking about America and the American people and their concerns and their needs? This next administration of Donald Trump president will be all about retribution for him personally. Is that the show we want to watch? Is that the rerun of The Apprentice we want? It's not what I want.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill.
Please have you about 10 weeks of the debate.
Looking forward to it.
Great to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
That was a very strong finish. That was
I just want to point out this thumbnail on the bottom left is classic Christie. Look at this face and finger, you know. Somebody filled him with water beforehand. You know what I mean?